welcome back to Lily High on Life, and we have a fabulous guest this week, someone that I knew from many, many years ago, and I was shocked to find out that he's even busier now than he's ever been, and he's around my age, maybe a little bit older, but I want you to say hi to Issi Dye.
Oh, hi, Phil. Look, I tell you what, we can say I'm a lot older than you, but that's okay.
But you know what? Yes, it's not about the age, it's about the energy level. And that's
Attitude
and energy level. And that's really why I've got you in today to the studio.
Forward to a night tete-a-tete.
So tell me about what you're doing now.
Look, I'm probably living the dream now because
Izzy, for those that don't know, I've just assumed everybody knows you, but Issi Dye is one of the consummate entertainment people in Melbourne, Australia. He used to be all over television and concerts and everywhere else, and now he really is still the concerts. So an entertainer and a singer. Yep. Now please tell us what you're doing.
As I said, I'm living the dream now because when I first started back in the mid-60s, I would never have dreamed then when I was 18 that I was ever going to have a longevity of over 55 years or something in show business. I thought it was going to be a short-term thing, like most entertainers, short-term, and then after a few years, you go back to a real job. And of course, I've had many varied things in the entertainment business that I've done, which I'll explain a bit later on, but finishing at what I'm doing at the moment, in the last let's call it the last 5 to 10 years, I've been much more live performances, travelling around the country, wherever in the UK and everything, and doing the different shows. But remember, as a typical entertainer, reinvention is a big thing, and continuing to reinvent my career is probably what's kept me going, because if I was just doing the same old every week, not saying that we don't love singing the same songs, but same old every week, it would probably be boring both for the audience and me. But because I'm able to do different genres of the music and keeps it fresh for me, and obviously it gives me a chance to do different entertainment.
Of course, and you are doing very different entertainers, from Al Jolson to Elvis Presley.
Yeah, so you couldn't make... people say that Al Jolson to Elvis, but in actual fact, they had a big connection. Al Jolson and Elvis Presley had a huge connection. In fact, in 1949, Al Jolson had a hit with a song called Are You Lonesome Tonight? And... that was like a 1940s song. And
Al Jolson wrote that?
No, he didn't write it. He sang it. Yep, he sang it, and it was the year that he recorded the Jolson Sings Again. He'd already done the Jolson story in 46, and then Jolson Sings Again in 1949. He also recorded Are You Lonesome Tonight? And then a few years later, Elvis talked about that.
Wow. And and just a quick plug, you're doing your famous Jolson story again.
I don't do the Jolson show very often now. I find that probably because our audiences are very old. Our audiences are pretty old, and which is fair enough, because the Jolson was, remember, a century ago. And so consequently, I'm doing less of the Jolson now than I ever used to. But I used to love doing it. I must have done a couple of thousand performances of it. But
so October
12th. So if anyone is listening out there, Saturday night, it's okay, it's after Shabbos, so that's okay. Saturday night, the 12th of October, at a place called the Club Voltaire, which is a small theatre-type club in North Melbourne. So, again, a nice place to go and enjoy an intimate concert going back to the days of the 20s.
And I'll pop that up on my Facebook
Thank you.
well.
And I'll expect you there in the front row, Lil.
I've already got my tickets.
Oh, good,
and they are in the front row.
Oh, well, oh my God. So, listen, listeners, I'm under pressure with her now, you know that. But look, it's one of those things where it's nice to have that show, because most of the shows I've been doing of the Jolson have been in big clubs and theatres and all that, and you don't really know anyone in there. You do it, but it's in an intimate atmosphere. I'm seeing a lot of people that want to come, people that are friends and family, small, and I guess it'll be a much more of a in-your-face type show. Much more.
Not only is Al Jolson one of my very, very favourite movies, entertainers, everything, but I'm a fully paid member of the Al Jolson Club.
Oh, the society, the Al Jolson Society.
Jolson Society.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. Well, actually, I had a chat to some people in America once about going to do some of the Jolson, but they did have a few guys over there that did the blackface Jolson. This is years ago, and did it. But fortunately, the Jolson Society in England, in the UK, I was lucky enough to meet up with them, and they did organise it. And I went over, and I've been over and done half a dozen different theatres around England with the Jolson story. So that part keeps me doing it over there, but at the same time, they don't know me there. They only know Al Jolson, and the music is what lives on.
Yeah, and he's so politically incorrect.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, I have to do the white face now because it is politically incorrect, you're right. But I must admit, it was disappointing in those days when I had to change from the black face to the white face. But the people of today, I don't want to offend anyone. And in the end, even though you can't change history, in the end, we don't want to upset anyone.
How do you feel about people that are offended by that?
Well, the people that I do the show for, they're completely not offended. They say to me, look, why can't you put the face on? We want the history of the Jolson. But I said, look, there are people out there, there are some people out there, whoever they might be, that probably don't even give a damn about Jolson, but they just don't like the idea of a white Jewish boy putting on a black face, singing about
just
it,
like
sitting about a Jolson. Well, that's right. But you can't change history. That's what I keep saying to people, you can't change history.
And people had gollywogs.
Well, I'll say this. How often do they play the Jolson story on TV? At least once a month. Somewhere.
Oh, yes.
But how come they're allowed to do that?
Mum and I watch it all the time.
Thank you, but why are they allowed to do that? They're allowed to do it. They're not getting protests about that movie.
The movies.
People, that's a history thing. It's like watching Ben-Hur or watching The Sound of Music or watching, anything from the back in the 20s and 30s when people had completely different idea on life. They still allow the movie to be played, but a person on stage that has the choice instantly of putting the face on, obviously, that's a negative. So we don't want that.
So, Issi, you're doing like 150 to 200 shows a year.
Yeah.
And you're also exercising every morning.
Well, as many mornings, I'll take that, listeners, every morning that I can. I mean, like this morning, for example, because when I do an early morning show, like a 10 o'clock show, 11 o'clock show, no, it's too early for me, but most days when I'm not performing. What goes
on in your head? What motivates you to keep taking that many gigs and to keep exercising?
I think it's probably a bit of both fear of the unknown and fear of not being wanted, and at the same time the thrill of being able to do it.
So
because you can do it, you do it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. I guess it's one of those things which you don't really know why you do something, but if you enjoy it, I must admit that I enjoy hosting in front of people and singing and looking at their faces and telling stories and watching their reactions and come back on, especially when I'm doing theatre shows, and it keeps motivating you. But at the same time, you do know that you've got to keep your audience happy.
And you're actually you come up with these shows and you have somebody you work with that gets you the gigs to do them.
No, I get the gigs.
You get your own
Yes, I
gigs
do it. I absolutely, look, I do work with a lot of agents around the country, but most of the jobs, most of the gigs are people that know me, and I speak to them directly. And I guess, look, it's not so much a matter of a choice, but it's been through by me being always the man on the phone and being able to, I can cold call people pretty easily, and it's made me, I guess, plenty of shoe leather, walking around, and once again, if you've got a good reputation and you do well with your shows, not every show goes well, but if you do well in most of your shows, you get invited back, or you negotiate to come back, and so it becomes like a self-organising thing.
And are you entertaining yourself as well?
Yeah, I think I do. Although sometimes, when you're there doing your shows, you realise, you say to yourself, look, today it really doesn't matter how badly I'm feeling. I've got the audience in there and they're paying or they're watching, and you've got to drive along and do there's no, you've got to keep going. It's like you don't stop the show. But sometimes you feel not very good, and you still do it.
Going.
Especially on the days when you might feel sick. And you think, oh my God, I'm feeling sick today.
But the music and the momentum.
Well, I think it's just the momentum, and also knowing you don't want to let people down. I think that's probably what it is. I'm always a stickler. I say to people, look, I'd have to be almost dead not to go, not to be performing. If I was really sick and I wasn't going to, I don't want to cause the audience to be, as sick as me, then obviously I wouldn't turn up. But I would let them know. However, touch wood, it hasn't happened very often. Very rarely. I'd have to be almost dying. I guess, no, that's fine. That's showbiz.
Is there a period you went through, because you had a very, very active younger years too. When you got into the business, you actually studied engineering.
I did,
but you went into music. Tell us about that.
Well, it was a strange thing. I mean, even when I was doing engineering, I realised then, and I was doing a lot of Jewish dances because my father was one of the singers at the main one at the choir at the synagogue in Turak Road, and so every weekend when I was at school, I would go to the shul and I would in a daven and I would sing in the choir. So I got used to working in front of people, singing in front of people, sort of like the Jolson thing. It's pretty similar, but it did give me a good stead because it made me fearless. Oh, there's people in the audience and I know them, but I can sing to them. It's no worry. So all of a sudden, I was 8, 9, 10, 11. By the time I was about 12, 13, I would go to a few Jewish dances and I would sing a couple of songs, oh, when the saints go marching in, all those funny songs. But, in those days, that was the hit songs, So I said, oh, okay. So I would sing along with the band and I would be cheeky and I would get up and do a couple of songs, not dreaming that would be something I would do. And then, of course, by the time school finished, I was already starting to perform in dances for a couple of shillings or something like that. And, of course, my father said, well, singing's a great thing because I'm doing it at the synagogue, but you're never going to earn a living from it. So, which is fair enough. Why would you think any other way? We came from the Holocaust. You wouldn't think of that. So, he just suggested that it'd be better if I did study. So I decided I would do a couple of years of civil engineering, which I did okay, but really it wasn't my cup of tea.
How did you get into getting your own gigs at that time?
Oh, look, it was difficult. No, a few people would ring up and say, oh, we saw you singing there, would you want to come and sing here? So, you sort of, it's network as well. I love that song.
Yes, tell me.
Probably one of my favourite Al Jolson songs, but I remember when I was young, my father played the Al Jolson music at home, but I never thought about it because it was like, Al Jolson, who the hell's he? Is that old guy from back then? I was interested in Paul Anka, the Everly Brothers, the Beatles, all that. I wasn't interested in Al Jolson. That was just like that old people's music. And little did I know, well, it was, but little did I realise what an impact it made and how over the years I learned these songs. I thought, these songs are amazing, and of course, when my career took a bit of a nosedive after my pop star days,
yes, how did that all
probably
happen?
The mid-70s, by 8 or 9 years of the television, 8 or 9 years of doing live TV and all the big shows, Happening 70s and the Don Lane Show and all those programs, going all over the country with them, it was fantastic. But like anything else, the 70s started to become more disco. So the disco scene was huge, and entertainers like me, which were more live shows, were on the outer. We would get our shows, but instead of having 3 a week, we might have 3 a month, and you couldn't live off that.
Did you go into panic mode, or did
no,
you?
No, not really, because I realised pretty quickly that if I was going to do something to give me longevity, I have to do TV. And I watched some of the other television programs. I used to watch a guy called Deadly Ernest who did a late night on Channel 10. He was like a ghoul type thing, and he would just sort of talk ghoulish things and wear those Dracula type costumes or whatever he did, and then introduce a movie. But I thought, hang on, I could extend on that. I can make it so that I can have chats with interesting entertainers in between the commercial breaks, like, for example, Johnny O'Keefe would come in, or Johnny Farnham, or John Michael Howson, or any of the TV stars of the day would pop in to Channel 9, and I had that from 1976, so from 76 to 83 or whatever it was, and in those years I was able to do a lot of television commercials, so I sort of learned to become a television presenter. So I would present a movie, I would talk about product, commercials, and I would also interview an artist like you might come in and I'd chat to you. So it gave me a whole new longevity, a whole different genre. So
you were able to see an opportunity, present it and make it happen.
Well, there was no, television finished at midnight. And I went into Channel 9 and I said, look, if you let me take it till 3 o'clock in the morning, I will buy the commercial space and work out a way to have that, make it profitable, but at the same time continue the station after midnight In fact, we used to call our show Issi Dye's Just After Midnight on Channel 9, and that went for years. And I had so many hundreds of thousands of people that have come up to me over the last 40 years and say, we used to watch you. So I used to think, who's watching at midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning? But it was amazing.
Lots of crazy people.
Well, there was all of the shift working. You don't realise how many people work, whether it's airline people or people involved in overnight things. They come home at 1 o'clock in the morning and they're wide awake and they want to watch for 2 or 3 hours. Instead of turning TV off and just listening to music or putting a video on, they could watch a live show. And when I say live, I would have a movie on, I would talk live to people, I'd talk about commercials, I might talk about the dancers or who's on at the rock and roll. So it became like an infomercial type program, and it was the beginning of it. It was actually the beginning of the infomercials.
Infomercials.
Yep.
And was it a tough sell, or they said, "Oh, okay"?
Very tough sell. But when I realised, once I got a few of my friends on board to say, "Well, come on, let's support it."
No, but for the management to say yes to you was...
Oh, it was a tough sell because they said to me, "Well, why should we have you running something all night?" And I say, "Well, there's nothing else running all night. All I want is one producer and the camera guy and a producer and me. That's all we needed." So we had a 3-man staff overnight. That's it. And so consequently it was, and by keeping your costs down and me doing all of it, doing the commercials, selling the commercials, presenting the commercials, talking to individuals, bringing them in for interviews, organising the movies with them. It became like I was a man for all seasons.
So they didn't pay you. You went out there and got your own.
That's right. Oh no, they didn't pay me. Oh no, I got them out, but I was on a typical sales commission, just the same as everyone else would be. As I said, but the difference was that with my commission, I was able to work, made it show busy. So it wasn't like I was just selling an ad and that's running. I mean, I might do an ad, for example, for some of the biggest nightclubs in Melbourne, discos and clubs. So if someone had a disco at Chasers or somewhere down there, they would say, "Look, that's a good idea. We've got a club that runs till 3 o'clock in the morning. We can put an ad on with Issi Dye." And he can say, "Oh, down at the Chasers or down at the centre, this is on tonight or tomorrow night. So-and-so is on there." So all of a sudden, they weren't paying a lot, but longevity was the thing. They would stay, once they were in, they would stay for the whole year, and I would be able to promote them all the time, and sometimes they would hire me to come down to the clubs.
Was that uber profitable for you?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. It was. I bought a house out of it. So that was really profitable, but no, it took years. And remember, I did work 7 days a week.
And it was very cool.
Oh,
it was 7 days a week.
Oh, well, it was 7 days a week organising and 1 day a week or 2 on. So, there was, like, let's just say you never have a holiday in showbiz. But remember, these were the years when I was doing very little singing. Only occasionally. I kept myself going, sing a few songs here and there, as I said, once or twice a month or something. But whereas I was coming from a situation where I was doing 3 or 4 a week, all of a sudden, doing all this other stuff meant that kept me busy.
And it sounds like it was so much fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun, absolutely a lot of, and I met hundreds of thousands of people who I still know today, which is, I loved it, and so many people, as I said, I've even had people come up to me wherever I do shows and say, "We used to watch you on late night." Oh, you
very
used to
cool.
be here. So that was sort of cool, but in saying that, it still meant that I still had to make it a successful business, but at the same time, I realised that also was never going to last, because once the TV stations realised, and this was all over the country, once the TV stations realised that there was profit in late night movies and TV, and nowadays it cost as much almost to have a late night movie commercial as it would to have one at 10 o'clock at night. People are watching all over the country 24/7. So in those days, we were able to sell commercials for very cheap. They're $5, $10, just to keep people going, and that would be on all the time. Today, it's hundreds of dollars. So you can see that in the end it was going to work. Not for me, but for the stations per se. And I realised then that once I was finished with Channel 9, which went in the early 80s, again I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And there was another sliding door moment when I thought, Issi Dye is still well known in Queensland and all over the northern area of Australia. Okay, maybe you should go there, because that's where live music was opening up. It was very stagnant for a while, and all of a sudden, all over Queensland and northern New South Wales and into Sydney. This is not happening in Melbourne, remember, because we had a different government here and we're still suppressed here for entertainment. But up there, the holiday seasons, all of a sudden they said, Issi Dye, would you like to come up here and perform? And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, they're asking me to perform there, but I can't get a gig in Melbourne. Okay, so I decided to move there. So my wife and I moved to the Gold Coast, had the two children up there, and for 15 years it was amazing, absolutely fantastic. It went from doing a few shows to touring all over the country again, and all of a sudden I'd reinvented myself and the rock and roll came, and that's how it went.
And it kind of sounds a bit like you were in like survival mode. What's next?
Oh, absolutely.
But nowadays it's called entrepreneurial.
Look, now fortunately, you look back on it now and I think, wow, I did that, and it was exciting and all that was great. But in the end, I was still much, much younger then. I mean, I was only late 30s, early 40s. Now that I'm in my early 70s, I look back and I think, oh my God, I really did that, and it worked. But in saying that, there was look, I'm a person who doesn't get depressed. I don't suffer from any illnesses or anything like that. I'm very, like, as in depressions or if something goes down that's bad, I deal with it probably by yelling and screaming, and then I get on with the job. So I've never had that, oh my God, no one loves me, no one wants to work with me, I hate the world.
It's
I've
more
never
like
had
what's
that.
Next?
What's next?
Next?
My daughter Bianca is the same as that. She is exactly like that, because radio people, as you know, if their ratings are down, up and down, so she has to get up and going, and that's probably what my two kids as well, Alex and Ben, they have a similar outlook on obviously seeing their father, although they're not in showbiz, but I've taught them the same thing. If something goes down and it's pretty crappy, get up and go for it. Okay, it's hard.
Absolutely. Up with what's next.
Yeah, come up with what's next, or try and deal with it and move on. I mean, look, there's no question. You can't be 24/7 perfect. It's not going to ever happen. But there's always the shitty times that happen, and the next minute good times happen. And I think you live for the good times and you work through the bad times. You need to make sure. I think that's part of it.
But maybe you won't be amazed at how many people don't work that way. How many people really don't know that simply by asking yourself, what do I get to do next?
Yes.
That takes you to the next place. It's far greater value than saying, gosh, what went wrong, or why did that happen? Yep. Who cares what the answer is?
Look, it's hard because you're dealing with people, so you're dealing with emotions and other people and things that you're dealing with. And if it's something that you've done to yourself, you can sort of deal with it. But let's say you've done something that's bad and you feel really bad, you've done something to someone else, or you've affected other people's lives, that's when it's harder to deal with. And that's when you have to be really tough, strong. And I mean, look, everyone has terrible things happen to their lives. Families pass away. Something happens badly. You lose your family, and
you lost your dad when you were quite young.
I was only 25. My father he was only 57, and it was crazy. I mean, there he was, the guy I looked up to, and the man who came from the Holocaust and went through all that, being a doctor in the Polish army, and going through all of the ghettos and the terrible tragedies that happened over there, and being part of the Schindler's List and all that stuff. And yet he came back to us. When we finally came to Australia, and it changed our whole lives, of course, which was tremendous. It was fantastic to be here.
How did he get to Australia?
Well, he was the chairman of the DP camp, the chairman of the after the ghetto, the camp in Austria. So when we went, my parents came from Poland, and of course they went to Austria, and they'd only just met in the war, and then they went to Austria. I was born in Bad Gastein, which is near Salzburg, and at the end of the 3 or 4 years that we were in Bad Gastein, my father was offered, look, where would you like to go in the world? And he said, what's the furthest place from here that Jewish people live? And people said, well, you can go either to America, or there's this place called Melbourne, Australia. Oh, okay. So of course he chose Melbourne.
Yes,
and that's a lot of Jewish people did that, and many people in Melbourne came up to tell me how my father helped save their lives in the times of the during the Holocaust. He was in charge of so many things, and we'd have people banging on our doors at all hours of the morning in Melbourne wanting treatment from my father, who was at that time was not allowed to be a practicing doctor in Australia. He was working for the CSIRO and doing that, but everybody, our Jewish friends would never worry about that. They would just come over and he would treat them in our lounge room for free.
He knew.
That was what he was like, and he was an incredible person, amazing man, that was amazing.
Brothers and sisters?
2 sisters. One passed away. She was only 46 and had breast cancer, and that was a terrible tragedy. That was in the 90s, and but has got 4 beautiful Israeli children. Went to Israel, married an Israeli.
Gorgeous.
Got breast cancer over there, unfortunately, but passed away then. But has got 4 grown-up, 30-odd-year-old, 35-year-old children, gorgeous children, and who already have got their own children now. So great, a nice legacy, fantastic. But unfortunately, but my other sister Rita, she lives in Melbourne and has got 3 gorgeous children. So nice. We see each other all the time, and she's a Caulfield girl like you. All the girls are Caulfield.
Jewish Caulfield girl.
We're living in the ghetto
right
area.
In the heart of the ghetto.
That's what we say, and it's great.
Izzy, and you had your mum for quite a while. She passed
just recently, a couple of years ago. She was nearly 90, and look, she was a lucky girl because again, she came out of the Holocaust it was probably my father that saved her life, because at the time she wasn't feeling too good, and he made her go into the hospital. This is like before the liberation, and told the German guards that she was very sick and wasn't able to be moved anywhere, and he would go in there and constantly be watching over her over the weeks and whatever it was. And of course, by the time it was the time for the liberation, luckily they got back together again and escaped together, and the rest was history. Otherwise, I wouldn't be.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be.
That's right. And I was a little curly-haired Jewish boy with long hair when I came to Australia. And everybody said to my mother, "You've got a beautiful daughter," because my hair was down below my shoulders, way down, curly hair. And of course, in those days, it was not unusual for over there.
Do I remember an afro correctly?
Oh, well, that was already in the 70s when I did my own afro hair. But when I was a little 3 or 4 year old coming out to Australia, 5 years old, I was just a long hair with the little lederhosen on me, and
wow, you have those photos.
Absolutely, I've got the photos of that, and of course, all the kids said to my mother, all the people said to my mother, "Oh, you're a lovely daughter," and so she went,
Cut it all off.
Yep, and then I went to Brighton Road State School down here with all my Jewish friends and other friends, all my other Woggy friends, as I said, and I had my hair cut short then because I had to, I wanted to fit in. I didn't want to be that him from there, but I must admit, many of my Jewish friends came from all over Poland and all over the place that had landed in St Kilda, and we all went to school together. So, and I still know some have passed away, but many of them are still around, and I still get to see them, which is great,
Yeah, those friendships that you have for a long time are really important. Well, tell me about, do you have, it sounds like you have a lot of very long...
Oh, absolutely. Look, even my just people like my solicitor that I've known now for 60-odd years, and he's still my solicitor today. I wasn't a solicitor then when I knew him when we were young, and people from school, and of course I went to school, Mount Scopus College, and I was in the same, not the same year, but I was in the same group, let's say the same 3 or 4 year group with people like Jeffrey Edelston and Solomon Lew and the Portman family and the Goldblums and all the people that I grew up with. They were much more into the business than my father and I. My father was a doctor, so knew nothing about business. But all of a sudden, I'm at school with all these people from Schmuttis and the rag trade and doctors and all these people, and their families. So it was, as I said, it was a learning curve.
What does it take to maintain these long-term relationships? Because it does change. There's school, and then there's, you're single, and then you're married, whatever. That's right. What does it take to maintain?
I reckon probably one of the good things is not to see them too often. I think so. I reckon that is one of the things, because look, don't get me wrong, I mix with people and I love to see them all the time. It's great, but mostly when you see people once every year or a couple of times a year or 3 or 4 times a year, you've got things to talk about. Oh, what have you been doing? I'm not one of these who goes fishing with my best friends or plays golf and I see them every week. It's not me. I travel too much, and most of the friends of mine that are involved in, whether they're showbiz people or they're involved in whatever their lives that they've got, I find that it's much more interesting if I see them every now and then. We still love to talk, we still know each other, we still love each other, but it's nice to have that.
So those connections are sort of made and continued internally.
I think so. Oh, absolutely. I think that's internally, because I'm not one who lives out of someone else's pocket, and it's just never been my forte. I guess also because of showbiz, it's so flighty. You're there one day. I mean, let's put it this way: most people have functions on weekends. Most people. Issi Dye works every weekend, so. Of course. I never get invited to anything. Or, I mean, everyone says, can you come next Saturday? We're having a party. Can you come next Friday night? We're having, or come in Sunday after. Look, I'd love to, but I'm in Queensland. Oh, I'd love to, I'm in Adelaide. Oh, I'd love to, I'm in Tasmania. This is what happened for years. Yeah. So they'd all go, don't invite him. That schmendrick, he's not coming. So in the end, they realised, this is all the friends that I dealt with and that I still know today. My best days are on Monday night. Do you want to go out for dinner together? Tuesday night, let's go for dinner. So it does take a special person that wants to go out for dinner or meal or talk on a Tuesday, because it's not their day off. So you know what I mean? Whereas it's my day off.
So what you're also saying is that when you do bump into those people from way back when, there's both of you feel that connection with each other because you knew each other when life was simpler and real.
I don't think we need to, when you're with people that you know and you get on with them and they know you since you were a little kid, you can't bullshit to them. Yeah. They know everything. And they know about you. They know what you were like at school, what you were then after school, when you were at university, what you were like here, when you did your first song, when you had your bar mitzvah, when you had your circumcision, whatever. They know it all. So you can't lie to them. So they're the people you get on with. Yeah. My very good friend Jake Kowecki, who is a former solicitor, just retired now, and I've known him forever. As I said, he's been my mate for years. I mean, if I don't see him if I happen not to see him for 12 months, if I happen not to, the next day it's the same as I haven't seen him yesterday. Yes. We'd sit and talk. Hey, and talk about that and yesterday. So to me, it's the connection. Yeah,
and especially I know personally also with friends in all over the world. Actually, it's not just Los Angeles. Yeah. When it's real between people, you maintain that connection.
And they don't think of anything, they don't think badly of it. They know your good, bad, and your ugly part, and they don't care, and they teach you as you are. See, it's different when because remember, with showbiz, as you know, I'm dealing with people from an arm's length. People see you, they love you on show. I have today, people come up to me, we love your music, I love you, I've known you for years, I've seen you on TV, thank you very much, can we have a photo together? Fantastic, I love all that. But it's not the real world.
Yes.
The real world is what I'm doing, like life, So, and I know people love to come to see a show they're getting away from their reality. They're coming to see somebody perform Jolson or rock and roll or Johnny O'Keefe or Elvis, and they're coming to enjoy that, and you're the purveyor of that. So you're sort of there as like going to the theatre. You go and see a famous actor like, any of our famous actors that you see on television and you see them live on stage. Once they, like Jeffrey Rush, these guys, when you see them, I know Jeffrey, I've met with him, I've had dinner with, not dinner, I've had the drinks with him and talked to him, and he's such a lovely guy, but you can see that he even though he likes me, he's not going to connect with me. He's just going to, I'm a distant thing to him. He's an actor who will be performing all different things, and I'm just one more person that he's met. I'm not part of his inner circle. And that's understandable.
Yes, but real people recognise real people.
Well, yeah.
That's the bottom line. So listen, what was it about your current wife, Janice, that made you decide to give this marriage thing another shot?
Probably because she's not Jewish. Oh, there you go. She's a good Catholic girl.
Was that the main thing?
No, it's not true. But look,
there's a little bit of truth in it as well, because I was around when Jewish boys didn't want to date Jewish girls.
It's not,
and I understand.
You get it, but the thing is, it's not so much that. It's more that if I'd have met somebody, whoever it might have been, whether they were Jewish or Greek or whatever they were, I would have been fine. And it just happened that I met this girl such a long time ago, and it wasn't even so much meeting her. It's connection. you get to know someone and you think, well, I like this person, and then that's a nice person I wouldn't mind spending time with. And obviously time starts from the beginning, and then a month goes by, and 2 months, and 6 months, and a year, and you think, oh, this is interesting. They're connecting with me. I'm getting to know the family. They're getting to know me, and they're getting to know my side. I get to know them. And if you didn't like it then, you can easily step out and say, oh, thanks very much, or they can say goodbye, see you later. But, one thing steps on another, and you start liking what you're seeing. And we look, probably Janice and I, we do love doing things together. Always, she'll love to go to theatres that I do, shows, travel. We love travel. So, if I was like some of the other friends of mine who say, we go fishing and golfing with our mates, the wives stay home, and, they do their thing.
It's a different kind of relationship.
I don't do that. See, I've never done that in all my years. We never do that. It's just not been me. We love doing things together. I'm not saying that we want to be together 24/7. I can easily go away for 2 or 3 weeks touring.
Being
no problem.
Comfortable with someone.
Absolutely. I think it makes it. And also you've got to like the person. Apart from loving them and having fun with them, because you're married together, or you're having a relationship together, but you've got to like your partner. You've got to get on with them and like them. And if you like them, everything is easy.
Did you run her past the first wife and child?
No, not really, because by the time I'd split with my first wife, it was 10 years before I got married after that. So it was a long time. And I'd already split, at least 4 years or something, a long time before I met Janice, quite a few years. And of course, my daughter was growing up at that time, so next minute she's had 2 mummies. One with me, I hadn't been married yet, but we were living together, and her real mum. So she had 2 mummies. Of course, we brought her up for a while.
Okay with Janice.
Well, she was great, but at the same time, you're not my mummy. My real mummy's there, and you had to put up with that thing.
And when the new kids came along?
Well, yeah, it was difficult. Absolutely. I wouldn't say it wasn't difficult, but at first it was like, you could see the jealousy there, like any other child who's already a teenager and the babies have come. But now, oh my God, they're the best. The 3 of them are unbelievable. They're thick as thieves. They go travel, whenever they can, they travel together, or they meet up together, or she flies down or they fly up. So it's she never calls them their stepsisters or brothers.
Just sisters.
Yeah, that's it. It's family, and we get it. Okay, she still has her mother alive, so obviously that's her mum, and Janice is her stepmum, and that's fine. But the brothers and sisters, it's just like, because they're from me as well, they're just like brothers and sisters, and she treats them as blood, which they are.
Do you remember how you dealt with it back then to have this great outcome at this stage?
Well, it was pretty heavy. Oh, it was hard. Oh, absolutely.
Was it hard because you felt guilty, or was it hard because you really didn't know what to do?
No, I didn't know what to do because I wasn't guilty. Didn't feel guilty because I was having my relationship. I I was realising that now that I'm in my 30s, it's time for me to, find somebody that I do like to spend my life with. I didn't want to be living on my own. Apart from anything else, I wasn't thinking, I've got to have a marriage. I didn't think that, but I thought, hang on a minute, I don't want to be living by myself in my 40s and 50s. I'd like to have a partner. Who am I? And I wasn't out looking for someone. It just happened. Somebody introduced me to it, and one thing led to another, and it took a long time for the relationship to cement. I mean, years to cement. It took 10 years to get married. From the time I met her, it was 10 years till I married her. So that was a long time
to be engaged. So it wasn't really a click in your brain. It was just realising you were comfortable enough to do it.
Plus, I was working a lot, touring and travelling, and Janice had to sort of cop with that she had her own place, and we're having weekends and that together and there, and coming to the shows, and look, again, it became a respect and an understanding between us. And by the time we realised that when she was going to move in after 8 years or something like that, I kept begging her, please move in, and no, I don't know whether I should really move into that situation. She was worried about it, let me tell you.
Clever girl.
But look, the good thing about it is that we're so totally different, as in I'm a typical Gemini, crazy as I am, and my wife is a very Libran person. That type of, what shall I say? She is Miss Procrastination.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. She will take a long time to make a decision, whereas me, instant.
Well,
I think I'll buy that house. I went over and I bought a house in one morning. I didn't even want to buy a house, and I went over and bought a house. That was what I was like. But my wife, if I ever said that to her, she would kill me. She would say, now, hang on, I want to buy this car. No, let's go and look at 30 cars, and we'll decide which one. I like this car.
Women just like shopping.
That's true, yes. That's exactly what she does.
I just spent a couple of minutes with her the other night, but I was really impressed. I thought she was just
she was the sales manager for Esprit Fashions in Melbourne. So she was right into the fashion scene and worked in Bieber's in London. And actually, she went for 5-6 years.
She really had her own career.
I loved it. That's probably why my daughter Alex is living in London, because at the same time, when Janice was 20 and in her early 20s, she went to live 5-6 years in London, learned the fashion scene and loved it, and really only came back to Melbourne because her parents were getting elderly and they were worried. And so she said, look, I'll come back for a few months. And next minute, a guy called John Bell, who was a very well-known fashion guy from Esprit, and a guy called Mark Chawinski, who was from Cherry Lane, they all offered her a great job to stay on. I didn't know this because I'd not met her then. And then I met her through some friends at Esprit and at the Chasers when we were dancing the disco. I said, I know you, I've seen you before. And she, I don't go out with showbiz people. That's what she said. So it did take a long time.
Very cool.
She's cool.
Izzy, do you have anything else that's being concocted in your mind for the future?
Look, I take one day at a time. As far as I'm concerned, I'm just happy to keep rocking. And already now I've got about 100 shows booked in advance now for the next 12 months at the moment. And so there's no reality I haven't got any long-term ideas. All I want to, especially because I'm in my 70s now, and who knows how long I can keep going. Sure, at the moment, I'm okay, I'm going to the gym, I'm fit, I'm doing all those things, but you never know what's around the corner. You can't help. You have an accident, something happens, you get cancer, who knows? So at the moment, as long as I can see in the distance from future, I'm still enjoying what I'm doing, but I'm still happy for every day. Let me tell you, when I get up and I go to the gym and I work out, I think, oh my God, thank God I was able to get through today.
Well, that really, truly is the very best attitude, and that's what Lily High on Life is all about.
That's great. When you've done it.
Realising that how wonderful life is right here, right now, because we can't do anything about yesterday, we're not sure about tomorrow, so all we've got is
Right now, absolutely.
Izzy, thank you so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
We haven't had time for another song or anything. This has been absolutely wonderful and delightful.
Thank you, darling. And I hope all those listeners out there don't think too badly of me.
Not possible at all. Okay.